A book that was published a couple of years ago, targeted to Java developers who wants to develop enterprise application with Flex front-end. Back-end Java, front-end Flex. It's advanced book, so it's not exactly a tutorial, but it is there. What else we do? We also developed a whole bunch of plugins for Flex developers, for Eclipse, for Flex Builder in particular, to make development of Flex application for enterprises faster. And I'll show you at the end one of these. And we run training, different trainings, and this is an example of it. We teach actually different courses. One of them, for example, in 2 weeks, actually in 10 days, I'll be teaching in New York, which is Adobe certified training for 5 days. This is not obviously certified training, but my idea is to give you, during 3 hours, to give you a good grasp of what Flex is, why it is good today, how to get started. So that's my goal for today. And feel free to stop me if I feel it appropriate. I'll answer immediately. If this is not a good moment, I'll answer anyway, but later. Besides that, if I will not answer you during the workshop, I'll be sitting at our booth, Parata, so you can stop by and talk to me privately afterward. Couple of questions. I need to understand what is your background. How many people know Java in this room? Wow. That's a good answer. All right, so now I know how to talk to you. I've been doing Java for 10 years, so I also know Java, so we can find the way to communicate. So, since you are here, I assume that you understand that Flex does your body good. So, but still, I do a quick, maybe 5 minutes run over the other technologies too. Again, if you are interested to hear more comparison, attend my session at 5 p.m. today. Basically, to put it simple, if you want to develop rich internet applications today, and it has to go in production this year, there's no choice but Flex. Period. It's not like I like it or I don't like it. I have my philosophy. I don't fall in love with tools. I use this language or a tool if it does the job. Like, you cannot fall in love with a screwdriver, right? With Phillips screwdriver. Phillips is good if it works. If it doesn't work, who cares? Use another screwdriver. So, by the way, just to make it clear, I don't work for Adobe. I don't get paid by Adobe in any shape or form for saying that I like Flex. So it probably gives my words a little bit more credibility now. So I'm not selling you. I am using it for a living, making money. Market is great. We cannot find enough consultants for our company who knows this stuff well. So I like it. Tomorrow will be something else. I will easily switch if they will offer something better. So today there is nothing. Microsoft is the closest competitor that will show something next year, not this year. Silverlight version 2.0. It's in early beta now. Version 1.0 was released in September of the last year. It has nothing for enterprise developers. It is for streaming media, and that's about it. No controls, no protocols, no layouts, no support of CSS, so not much basically. So we don't consider them at all this year. I meet often .NET developers who use Flex for front end. I ask them, how come you are not supposed to do this? You are a .NET shop. We cannot, I mean, there is no tool as of today. But again, Microsoft is Microsoft, you have to respect them and so on. Next year they will be here.
What about OpenLazlo?
OpenLazlo was considered competitor 2 years ago to Flex. They created their own version of a language to produce applications that can be run in Flash Player. And they supported earlier version of Flash Player. With Flex, you need to have your users install Flash Player 9. It wouldn't work with Flash Player 8 or 7. Why OpenLazlo would? After Adobe announced Flex to be open source, Lazlo has lost their major reason for even considering them. It's also open source now, so why bother? Why won't you just go with a large company which has a platform, not just a set of components, set of buttons or text boxes and so on. Performance-wise, it's not even close, open Laszlo, to applications that you create with Flex. So there is no, today, I know the owner of the company, and I was asking him a year ago, actually, yeah, a year ago, when Flash Player 9 was penetrated to 60% of the machines. Today it exists on 98% of the computers. We're already installed Flash Player 9. So the platform is pretty much there. A year ago it was on 60%, and I asked him, why bother using your open Laszlo if we can use Flex with 60% installment based? He said, see, 60% is not enough. So now it's 98%. So now it's hard to find any reason to do this. Now, who else? Who else? Sun Microsystem is where it is late. Surprisingly, this is a company that technically created rich internet application back in '95. They introduced applets, which was technically a rich client. And then they realized that they're in the business of doing hardware on the server side, and they immediately switched, and they forgot it. A year ago, they realized that they are way behind everyone else. Nobody is using applets. It's not a good technology. JVM is huge. Web start is not quick. You have to wait like 15-20 seconds till something comes up. UI is ugly. So it's not a product in today's world for consumers, especially for consumers-facing applications. So they decided to catch up, and in 2007 they announced on Java 1 that there's a new language called JavaFX. They just announced it. They just acquired back then a company that created this language, and they didn't have anything to show last time. The year spent, 2 weeks ago there was Java 1 2008. They have nothing to show. I mean, there's a product, and again, I participate in different mailing lists with people who are in that team with JavaFX. I really want them to succeed, to be honest with you. Competition is great, and the more the better. And I asked them, this night, I was online with them saying, I have a presentation today. I'm in Bangalore, and I'll have a presentation in the evening comparing technology. Give me a pet store or something for JavaFX, and I'll include it. I'll show it to people. They are not ready. They responded. So sorry, we have something. Whatever they show me, I don't want even to show you. I mean, it's bad PR for them, for some. And what else? Pretty much that's it. I mean, the small, there are some small companies like, for example, Curl language, but they are pretty much in Japan most of the time, and they are not competitive again.
Excuse me, what about Mozilla?
Mozilla is also has a small base of users, but again, what are the reasons? We are talking about an application that is compiled. Like in Java, you create bytecode, right? It's not interpreted. It's compiled and played in a virtual machine that is Flash Player. So other things, including Ajax as well, by the way, cannot be considered for the enterprise application. So it's kind of good segue from Jesse's talk about who is the father of Ajax. At least, he is not the father of Ajax, he's the father of the term Ajax. But I am the person who is anti-Ajax. I've been writing it for 2 years in a row. Everybody went Ajax way. Finally, Forrester, like a month ago or 2 months ago, admitted that this is the wrong way to do enterprise applications, and published a study, very expensive study, 8 pages, like for $700. But now they also understand that this is the wrong way to go. But for some time, people will go that way anyway. So 3 technologies. Adobe Flex today is ready, and I work as a consultant for different clients, and we put applications in production. It's not like I'm experimenting with some sample applications just to impress you over here. We do some serious stuff. Last year I spent 8 months on a project for a foreign exchange trading company, trading application using Flex as a front end to Java. And in particular, that was an interesting project because we had to take care of communication protocols. We extended communication protocols that offered by Adobe to make them a bit more stable and to meet their requirements. Right, last week I completed the project. The project is not finished yet for another month, but I am on the project already. For Mercedes-Benz, you will see a new site in a month. It goes in production. Flex front end, about 200 screens or actual views. Really heavy graphics and nice, beautiful design and so on. In our booth, I recorded like a 1-minute demo of some screens of this Mercedes site. So our company works for different clients, different sectors, and Flex is not a perfect solution, but it's the best available today. That's what I want to say. And the other important thing is, when you are asking, are you using this, are you using Glasgow, are you using something else? These are all little guys, whoever you mention. They have a little product. Adobe has a platform. It has a whole bunch of different tools, Flex being one of them. All these things are coming from that company. It's a pretty solid support. They have a good team of Flex developers, and not only Flex. And Flex, in general, it's a friendly company, I would say. It feels like this, at least. And they have different tools. They have tools for designers, lots of tools for designers. Photoshop. Is it on this slide even? Probably not. Photoshop, Illustrator. And now they are coming out this year with a tool called Thermo. Thermo means if you are not a programmer, if you know Photoshop, you can create a beautiful design in there, press the button, and it'll convert your screen into Flex code. And it'll create Flex buttons and this and that. This upcoming tool is called Thermo. Even Sun Microsystems, they realize that they have nothing to show today for designers. So now they create hooks to Photoshop and Illustrator from Adobe to deal with JavaFX. Microsoft, they created Silverlight, and they're working on it still, and they are creating tools for designers. I don't know, it probably will be not easy to tell designers to switch from Photoshop to their like Blend Studios or something, Expression Studio tools, but they are moving there. So you need to have the whole stack. It's not just one company that creates nice checkboxes. Or when you read about Ajax, they have 200 frameworks. It's crazy. 200 different frameworks to create Ajax application. And it's a company, like they say, we have the best data grid. That's great, data grid, but I need more than data grid. I need the whole suite of tools, and so on. So now let's move to Flex. What is Flex about and how I can use it? How many people, raise your hand please, in this audience have already experienced creating Flex application? Not many, like maybe 5%, 7%. All right, so maybe for you it's going to be a little bit boring when I will be talking about Hello World, but still, maybe not that boring. You can talk about Hello World in different ways. So, what is Flex 3? It's a set of, to put it simple, it's a set of two languages. MXML, which is a XML-based declarative language. Angle brackets text. You want to put a button, you say angle bracket, a max column button. And then you say, this is a width, and this is a height, and this is a text, and this is whatever. Just plain text. Plus it has a language called ActionScript 3, version 3. Object-oriented language, looks 90% like Java, so you pretty much know already 90% of the syntax of the language. You don't know how to program properly, but at least you will find it very familiar. And so whenever you want to put components on the screen, you use MXML. You put a button, use MXML. But if the user clicks on the button, something has to happen, right? You need some process. This processing is written in ActionScript. So your program consists of two parts, and then it gets compiled. Flex comes with compilers, of course. You can use it as a command line compiler if you want, if you don't want to pay anything. Flex Builder, by the way, is not free. Flex Builder, whatever I gave you, is evaluation copy. Obviously, you can download it from Adobe. It's valid for 60 days. After that, you have to buy it. No, maybe not you, maybe your employer, but somebody has to purchase the IDE. But if you don't want to purchase, Adobe says you don't have to, even though you should. So command line compilers are there. So they will take your XML pieces, ActionScript pieces, compile them together and produce one file as an output, which is right there. Hello world SWF. SWF is an extension that is understandable by Flash Player. What is Flash Player? It's a runtime environment for, in our case, for Flex application. Not only, but for Flex application too. It's a VM, virtual machine. Like we have JRE, Java runtime, we have Flash Player, which is also runtime. And inside, they fit two runtime sections. For compatibility reasons, they keep one older runtime for Flash Player 8 and earlier. Maybe you'll have to use some Swifts. We call these SWF files, we call them Swifts. Maybe you want to use some Swifts from ActionScript 2 and some Swifts from ActionScript 3. So they have two VM under the same roof in there. And this roof is only 1.5 megabytes compared to 16 megs of JVM. And again, it's installed everywhere already. And the beauty of it is, if it is not installed, installation is seamless. You don't have to be a guru, you don't have to know anything. If you try to download a website which happened to have these Swift as a part of it, the application will check immediately if this particular machine has the right version of Flash Player. If not, it'll show a little pop-up. Dear friend, you don't have the right version of Flash Player. Do you want to install it? Yes. Click the button 10 seconds, or maybe 15 seconds, and something happened and you have it. This is something that kills Java on the front end. They were never able to pull it off. Seamless install. You have to be a rocket scientist to install the proper version of JVM. It would be crazy, for example, for Amazon to go and use Java for their site. They would lose at least half of the customers, at least. But Sun Microsystems, to be fair, they make excellent progress, and there's a new update of JVM 6, the so-called Java 6 Update 10. This is the first time that they came up with, it used to be called Consumer JRE. They came out with a smaller JVM. Probably it will be like under 4 meg, which will be downloaded to the client. Again, the same idea. First, by the way, this JVM will live outside of the browser. It's not like a plugin for the browser. You can kill the browser, and that JVM is still alive. And one of the best features that I like so far about JavaFX, you will be able to run the application in the browser, then take it and drag it and drop it on your desktop. And it'll be there as an application in Java, in this new JVM. So anyway, the installation is very simple. And your application, which is HTML page with JavaScript with some inclusions of Swifts. Maybe say only one. Your application is one Swift, which is a part of HTML. We call it HTML wrapper. And it comes to your machine and it lives in a browser. And Flash Player plugin, if you use Firefox, or Flash Player ActiveX, if you use IE, is playing it, so to speak. And before even playing it, it applies so-called just-in-time compiler, or JIT, to convert it into machine code of that particular machine that you are using now. For example, I see over here Apple computer. So it'll convert it into Apple-specific machine code. The other important thing in Flex, which is important for people who need performance, and I mostly work for Wall Street companies, and they need performance more than the beauty of UI, communication protocols. Ajax is not even close when it comes to speed of sending. If you want to run a select statement, select star from customers that returns you 20,000 rows, we are talking about several times faster. You can get the data to the client if you use Flex with one of the communication protocols. One of them, for example, is called AMF, Active Messaging Format, compressed protocol. The data is compressed, and what they implemented internally, they implemented serialization in a special way. Like in Java, you have serialization. one VM can serialize the object, you will send it over the wire, and the other VM will deserialize it, right? And recreate an instance of your class employee, for example. In here, it's similar but different. In one end, say, for example, you have a Java program on the server side that could be any plain Java object on the server side. It doesn't have to be a bean or JSP or anything, just any class you want. You call a method from Flex on Java, say, give me employees, get employees. And it creates a number of employees as a collection, as an array collection, array list, so to speak, in Java. And it sends it over the wire using that AMF protocol. And over here, Flash Player deserializes it, all these 20,000 rows, into ActionScript instances. So you have Java instances of this end, goes over the wire and are redirected, so to speak, as ActionScript instances. And then again, you keep working on ActionScript part. And you can send them back the same way. It's a stateful client. So you can take and you can bring these 20,000 rows, or as many as you want, to the client, and you can keep them there. It stays. There are no page refreshes or so on. You don't have to send all these cookies and remember every step on the way before you will finally buy this book on Amazon.com. So that's the story. That's the beauty of it.
What is the memory limit at the time?
Memory limit, there is no memory limit. This is wrong, actually. This is wrong. Basically, Java compilers are, Flex compilers are written in Java. They use JVM. So Flex compiler is technically a jar file, executable jar file. And of course, you have to play by the rules, and you have to increase the heap space if you want to keep more stuff in memory. So what is a reasonable amount of data to bring to the front in your application is, you have to use common sense, like you have to use Java as well.
The AMF protocol works only with Java?
Which one?
The AMF protocol.
No, the AMF protocol works not only with Java. Adobe sells, not sells, actually you can say sells and gives away for free. At the bottom of the slide there are two products. One of them is called Lifecycle Data Services. This is something more than just implementation of AMF protocol. It has a whole bunch of other features in there, for example, messaging. But this is something that they sell. And if the enterprise wants it, they would buy it. But they also have another product called Blaze DS. This is a free version, free implementation of AMF protocol done by Adobe. But besides that, there's a whole bunch of third-party companies that implemented AMF protocol, which is open source as well. And that's why third-party companies implemented it for different languages. So there is AMF implementation for Ruby, for .NET, for PHP, for Python, you name it. So it is there. And most of these companies are giving it away for free as well. Implementation of AMF protocol for all these other languages. But again, those are not Adobe.
So the only advantage I think here is performance because of the compression and seamless.
Performance and stability. See, the main goal is to take the browser out of the picture. The web browser. Web browser is not an environment to run in. Web browsers were created to be very forgiving. Think about it. You go to a page and that page has an image. And the image was not there for some reason. So what are you going to see? You're going to see a broken icon, but you can see the page. Browser understand. I couldn't get it. That's okay. But it's not okay if we're talking about the program. If a piece of your program didn't arrive, which is happening all the time in the Ajax world. Now you need to write program in Ajax, and you need to write another program in Ajax that will check that the first program arrived. Because browsers will forgive, and it'll use whatever it has in your hand. So this is another advantage. We want to have predictable environment. VM on the front, which is the same on all these major platforms: Linux, Windows, Mac OS, and so on. No, not and so on. That's it. They cover pretty much the market. And it doesn't depend on the browser. It doesn't matter if you use IE or Safari or Firefox. That's the other beauty.
Other than data integration, does it also work in any other languages integrating into C, C++, even for all performance reasons?
Okay, C++ and C. If you, for some reason, and you should have very serious reasons, are not happy with what you already have in terms of passing data between Java and the front end, you can program raw sockets. It is there. Program a socket, come up with your own protocol. On one end, you will have your C++ program that will send data on the front end. If this is what you want, it is available. But I would highly not recommend you doing this unless you have very serious reasons. All right, so this piece, Lifecycle Data Services or BlazeDS, is optional. But if you decide to use all advantages that Flex gives you, it is recommended for you to have a piece on the server side. But it doesn't have to be the case. Say you are a Java programmer and you have your website created using Java Servlet or Java Server Pages, or anything else that can send HTTP back, send data back using HTTP protocol. In that, you don't have to purchase anything. You don't have to use these server-side pieces like Lifecycle Data Services, we call it LCDS, or BlazeDS. There is a special tag in XML called HTTP service. You say, I want to connect to that URL, give me the data. Fine. You don't need anything on the server side. You can connect to existing sites. You can do a facelift to your existing Java application. But if today your Java application returns to the front not only the data, but it also paints HTML page, get rid of that HTML, just give the raw data and put the flex on the front, and you can create better front end, technically, without any server-side piece. If you have a web service, for example, SOAP web service, you can create a front end in Flex. There's a tag called web service, angle bracket MX web service. It'll bring the SOAP over here, the WSDL, and it will get the data and so on. So you can use it without having any special request for the server side. But if you work for the enterprise application where speed is important, it is highly recommended to use one of these. Either LCDS if you have money. If you don't have money, use BlazeDS. By the way, LCDS, as opposed to BlazeDS, uses messaging in a pure Java way. They like JMS kind of things. You can hook up to any existing. First of all, they are themselves a transport. JMS is only like API, right? But you have to have something to transfer the messages. But LCDS is the transport itself, and if you want, you can easily hook up to other messaging systems that you may be using in Java, such as MQ Series, for example, or TIPCO maybe. So it's easy hook up to the Flex application. And it's because of messaging, Lifecycle Data Services supports server-side push, data push. And that protocol is called RTMP. We have AMF and RTMP, Real-Time Messaging Protocol, which supports server-side push, which is very useful in a situation when you need to, say in Wall Street situation, you have a trading application or something, you need to push some data to the front. Latest prices, they're changing so fast, and you don't want to do polling over every period of time, let's say every 10 seconds or so, give me the prices, give me the prices. You want to push. So RTMP is the way to go. Actually, we did some experiments with AMF. When I say we, I mean our company, for other systems, and we found a way to trick it too and use BlazeDS and implement server-side push, or actually we reversed client calling the server. We know how to initiate, how to make server calling the client using the same AMF protocol, but officially AMF doesn't support it. AMF supports only polling, so you can do RPC calls every so often, saying give me, 10 seconds, 5 seconds. If you have nothing on the other end, you lost the call, you're wasting your time and you're wasting the CPU's time. So this is polling. But for majority applications, it's fine as well. Okay, so one more slide and then we'll switch to to work. This is an application. On this slide, we have entire. So let's say you have an XML file like this over here. It has a tag people. Under people you have person, under the person you have name, age, and skill. And you have several tags, like several elements like this. The goal is to display the screen that you see at the bottom of the slide. You want to display a data grid that read the XML part and then displayed it as these three rows. Say you have three people like this, and you want to. So what else I want to do? I want to just to since you're Java people, you want to set it pretty quickly. I want to show you how I can do this easily with existing applications. Say I want to write a very, very simple JSP, Java Servlet, that does nothing but one statement. So take a look at this. Out, print to left, right? Spit out the hard-coded XML. So I did, and this is entire XML for the same structure. Right? So I create this file, test JSP, save it under your serverless container, say its own cat, and that's about it. I just need to know the URL. Later today, I'll show you in front of you if I will do. So the JSP returns XML, and this is the code on the right-hand side of the button in MXML in Flex that will connect to this JSP, retrieve the data, and display them in a data grid like you see on the left. This is entire code, nothing else. So look at this. Remember I said MXML is XML-based language, or something we say it's a declarative language. We declare components, we declare UI. We say I want to have the button, I make the button. I want to have data grid, I make data grid, and so on. So we declare, but in this example I didn't use ActionScript at all. I didn't need it in this case, in the very simple case. But realistically, in many cases, you would be using it. So I say MX application, this is the main application tag. And I say, actually, I didn't mention the important thing. It's event-driven environment. When you program in Flex, you program events. Click event happen, the piece that you provided will be executed. Click event never happen, that piece will not be provided, not be executed. How many people in this audience know Power Builder or Visual Basic? Anyone? A couple. So Power Builder and Visual Basic works similar. Event happens, that piece of code will be executed. So what in this case you're saying, application complete is equal. This is the name of the event. An application will complete loading. Please do this. This is an event. On the same note, we could have click event. On click event, do this. On mouse over event, do that, and so on. So on this on application could say employees.send. What is employees? This is my variable right here. Employees. A tag HTTP service. A universal tag that can connect to any URL that returns you data that you know about. You need to know the data, of course. You need to know the format of the data. And it connects to the URL. In this case, URL is HTTP localhost 88, and this is where I run my Tomcat /test, the folder test, and employees.jsp. Employees.jsp is this. I save this portion as employees.jsp. And I said use proxy folds, which means go directly to this site. Don't go through another server. I don't want to go into detail why, but that's good enough for now. So I established, basically by doing this, I create an instance of an object HTTP server. And whenever I will call the function send, it actually connects to that URL and get back whatever that URL will return. And that URL will return nothing else but XML. Also, I have another tag over here in an XML called data grid, which is this data grid, rows and columns. And I said, I want to have a data grid, and your data provider, the source of data, will be employees.last result. Employees is this HTTP service, right? That will connect to that JSP. Employees.last result .people.person. What is .people.person? People person, right? You don't need to have any special parsers for XML. You can use regular object-oriented dot notation. Object dot property dot property dot property and so forth. So basically I work with XML as this object. So I'm saying employees dot last result is an area where the whole data will come. But what I'm saying, I don't want the whole data. I want to extract the element that is sitting under the tag people, and it is called person. If you have a deeper nesting, it's also fine. You can specify people.person.name.last. That's it. And this is a special technology called E4S, processing of XML. But again, I'll spend some time later on this. So that's the entire application. So in Java, if I will tell you, write me this application in Java with exactly the same functionality, would you have more lines of code than this? Most likely. Now, there is no free lunch. There is no miracles. If I've written 15 lines of code and all this is happening, somebody has to write this code. So far, we didn't invent anything better than writing code. And who writes this code? Flex compiler. Flex compiler will do a couple of things. First of all, it'll take these handful of lines in XML, and internally, it'll generate ActionScript code for it. Then, and this ActionScript code will not be 15 lines. It'll be a lot more. But you don't have to look at it. You don't have to see it. Actually, unless you do something special, you won't even see it. So first, it'll automatically create ActionScript, and then it compiles ActionScript into a Swift file, which is ready to be consumed. So what do you need in the end? You need HTML wrapper and one Swift file, which is compiled version of this application. That's all. Now the question.
Isn't this a GET request?
If you can see, I said over here, method equals post.
Right, correct. We are not posting anything to the server.
You're not posting, but I just used the word post, which is not illegal. Even though you're not posting, you can use post request.
You can use GET as well.
You can use get as well.
So where are you specifying the HTML wrapper?
If you are using Flex Builder, you don't need to specify, it'll automatically create it for you, and I'll show it to you in 10 minutes. But if you are not using Flex Builder, you have to write your own HTML, and you have to put in there a section with like embed or object, and you can specify, this is the name of my Swift file. You can do it manually if you want. And you can view source obviously.
This left of the, it is having any inbuilt server like Apache?
No. Flex Builder doesn't have any embedded servers, but it's based on Eclipse. So for example, in one of the plugins that we are using, and now when we work for projects, I would recommend you to install not Flex Builder that I suggested you or gave you now on that memory stick, but I would suggest to install Eclipse. Most likely you already have it. How many people use Eclipse? Pretty much everyone. So you already have it. So when you go home, and if you want to decide to do the same thing that you do over here, you don't have to have a separate Flex Builder, standalone, so to speak. You need to download and install Flex Builder plug-in for Eclipse. So in this case, and this is what I have, this is what I use on my machine, you have Eclipse, your Eclipse that you have today. But you will add a plugin, so it'll have additional perspective that is called Flex Development. So you will sit in your Eclipse. But what we recommend, if you work on enterprise or J2EE applications, we recommend to install not a regular Eclipse, but Eclipse version JEE, which comes with a whole bunch of sub-projects such as WTP that allows you to quickly create a server, under the server create a servlet and deploy it and so on. At the end of this workshop, I'll show you how, using our plugins that we also created, plus Eclipse, we can create a CRUD application, create, retrieve, update, delete, CRUD. Connected to a database to my SQL server I have it installed over here. And I'll do it in about 5-7 minutes. The application will be ready. And you will get the data. You will have Flex, Java, and database talking to each other, and the data will come to the front. And I will do this everything under Eclipse, and I will be running server under Eclipse, and I will be starting as creating Eclipse, so-called Eclipse Dynamic Web Project, which has nothing to do with Flex. It is there for Eclipse developers.
Excuse me, I'm more on the design side. I'm not a programmer. I'm wondering.
Should you stay? Should you stay in the room?
But I'm wondering if the designers are working on some sort of visual feedback depending on the actions the user performs.
Right. As I said, there's this new tool that is coming up called Thermo. T-H-E-R-M-O. It will be released in beta this summer, as far as I know. It's not official, but I've heard that. And you will be using your design tools. You will not need to learn programming. And it'll create out of your components buttons and checkboxes and radio buttons and drop downs from your screen that you will be designing. In the beginning, though, I don't think Adobe says that it's a big deal and many designers have big hopes. But I can tell you from my experience, it'll generate code. It'll generate this XML and say you designed something, it'll generate the code and you gave it to me, the developer, to keep working with it. And I will rip it apart immediately, this code, and I will try to do it better, more efficient than it was created by the tool. And then say there is a change in design. You will come back to me saying, Yakov, you know what, I want to change this and this and this and this. And I am already revamp your code, refactor your code. It's different now. How are we going to go about it? I don't know. I was talking to the guy from Flex team. He said, we understand it's an issue, but we will address it. I don't think they will address it immediately, but for initial prototyping, this is a solution for you, for people like you.
But as it is right now, if I design an effect in Flash, or let's say the login widget or something, and if there's an error on your password, it will become bigger or smaller, or whatever, right? Can we use?
Yes. There's a couple of things. You are designing in Flash tool, right? Flash Professional. This is what you use. Do you know at least some of ActionScript?
Basic.
Very basic.
Yeah.
But okay, so I would still recommend you to learn effects in Flex. They also have effects. Pretty simple, not difficult. But if you want, for people who have, for any reason, a piece written in Flash Professional, there is a way to use this Swift. You can compile it, save it as a Swift in Flash Pro, and I can use it. So I can use that. But again, you have to talk to whoever will be the architect in your project, saying, yeah, I have this. Do you want me to use it? Yes. And you can say, I can give you a Swift with my effects and with my widget that is nice. And by the way, people are using it, and we've been using these pieces. For example, Flash, the Swift files that are produced not by Flex, but by Flash Professional are smaller. And this is one of the reasons when pretty often we want to make the site lighter and we use some pieces created in Flash Pro. All right, enough. So what I will do, I will start Flex as Flex Builder, wherever you have it over here. I assume that you know Eclipse. Is this correct assumption? So I will not explain you that this is a view and this is perspective. You know this, right? So now what I will do though, I will let me check where I am. I will create a new workspace. I will start fresh. If anyone has Flex Builder, please do the same file. You can start your Flex Builder obviously, but I will emulate as if I'm starting something brand new. Say Dev Summit. I will create a brand new workspace. Again, I am using Eclipse with Flex Builder plugin. Whoever has it installed, just Flex Builder, you will use Flex Builder. You don't need to use this Java portion that I will be using. So it'll restart Eclipse. Free? No. Flex Builder is not free, being that plugin or standalone. There are two versions of Flex Builder. One of them is Flex Builder Standard Edition, called $250. I don't know about pricing in India. And there's Flex Builder Professional Edition that costs $700. So take a look. I started fresh, right? This is, if you start your Flex Builder, this is what you see: the help, the welcome page. I don't need the welcome page. I'll close it immediately. So I have blank, pure Eclipse. Again, in my version, I use Java EE version. See it over here? Java EE. If you just installed a regular one, you will probably see the word Java. So now what I can say, I want to open Flex perspective now also. So over here you can do plus, this open perspective, or the menu file open perspective. I'm sorry, in the menu windows you can do open perspective. You can do in menu windows, for example. Menu windows, I want to open the perspective. Which one? Other. Select other. And since I have it installed, again, people who have Flex Builder already installed, you don't need to bother. You already have Flex perspective. You don't have Java perspective. But I have Java, I want to have both. So I say I want to open up Flex development perspective also. So I will have both of them. And I press OK. After I did that, I see over here, up on top, right corner, over here, I see Flex developer's perspective or Java perspective. So I can have my Java Pro projects as well as my Flex project over here. And finally, hello world. So again, I am in Flex perspective. I want to create a new Flex project. So I click on the Flex Navigator area, or you can do File, New, if you want. File, New. And now what do you want to create? I want to create a new Flex project. It asks me, give it a name. And I will give it a name. Hello, Bangalore. Look at in the middle, you have these couple of radio buttons. One of them is asking me what type of application you want to create. Web application or desktop application. Now Adobe came up with a new version of the product, actually a new product called Adobe Air. Used to be called Apollo. Adobe Air uses the same techniques in Flex. So basically when you will learn Flex, you will learn more than Flex. You will also learn how to program. You will learn like 90% of programming for Adobe Air. If Flex is just for web application, you can compare Flex and Java applets. Adobe Air can use desktop as well, all resources, and it can use files, and so basically it can sit on your desktop, you can create it as an icon and so on. So I don't change anything because I'm not creating Adobe Air application. Adobe Application Server Type over here, the next portion over here. I'm not going to be doing anything, I'm creating hello world, I don't need any. And I will tell you what's in there. I will be creating the hello world application in front of you, and you can follow me if you want. But I'm sure your battery power will be gone soon, so you'll be watching anyway. You don't have any outlets over there, are you? Alright, so this is what I got. I didn't do anything, but it generated for me an empty application in MXML. So now I need to do something about it. I need to put some components in there. And there are two cases how I can go about it. If I know the tags in MXML, I can just start typing now to create a button or a label or anything. If I don't know or I don't want to memorize, I can switch to a design mode, to a screen. So I will see the screen and I will just drag and drop my buttons and checkboxes and whatever. Let's do it in the design mode. Look over here, up on top. Right now we are in the source mode. But if I will click on this tab, Design, it will show me a screen. That screen that the user will see eventually. And you can design your screen just like this. On the left-hand side, as you can see, you have the whole bunch of different components, such as button, checkbox, drop down, whatever you want. And I want to create a button. So look at me. I selected the button on the left, and I drag it right on the screen. Look, as I drag it, it puts some nice little lines for alignments if I need to align it with something else, but I drag it and I drop it somewhere. So it created for me a component with a standard text button. Button is not what I want, and on the right hand side, you see there's a label, parameter or property. So you can enter something else. See, I entered hello, and the title of the button is hello. Now let's quickly switch back to the source mode and see what happens there. You click on the source. Check this out. I didn't write this code, right? I just dropped the button. And under the hood, Flex Builder for me has written this code. Again, if I knew how to write this complicated code, I would have done it myself. If I don't, go to design. You got it? Now, there is help, obviously. Look at this, the source code. You have button, x equals 43, y equals 43, x and y coordinates, starting from the top left corner of my screen, and label is equal to hello, but how many other attributes the button object has, or data grid has, or checkbox has? You cannot memorize all that. So there's a help available, of course. You keep putting attributes till you know. I press space, and then boom, it immediately shows me what is available at this point for this component. And you can select something like, I don't know, what do you want to select? Say I want to select click. Click is an event. And you can say, if click will happen, do something for the button. But this is a little bit too complicated for the very first application. I don't want to do this. Now I can go back to the, say, I don't want to go back to design. I will say, now I want to also add a label under the button. So I start typing label. I'm sorry. Let me do this way. MX L. It helps me saying what is available to start with L. Oh, I see that there's a label. Very nice. Label. I hit space, and it tells me what are the properties of this label. I happen to remember that it has text, right? So whatever I put in text, I am a workshop. This is a label. The components have to be well-formed XML components, so you have to close them. Slash and angle brackets, that is called. Now I have a button and a label. A button I created in the design mode, a label I just typed in. Let me switch to the design mode and see what happened over there. See, on top there is a label. Why it is on top? Because I am now in absolute layout. There are different layouts, but this is absolute layout, meaning that I have to specify coordinates for the label, but I forgot, right? See, I didn't say X and Y. That's why it assumed 0, 0 and put it up on top. But if I want to fix it, say I want to say X is equal, say 100. I'm sorry, it has to be in double quotes. And now I will go back to the design mode. You will see it shifted, it moved, and so on. The bottom line is, it is done. I pressed Control S, or you can do File Save. So what do we have? We have main MXML, which we just written. I want to run it. I want to test it. I click on this main MXML file. I do right click. I want to run this as an application. And in this case, run as. Again, if you guys have Flex Builder, you will not even have a choice. You will just say run. But in my case, I run it as Flex application. I selected run, and it starts the browser, and it's ready. The application is on the screen. Now, what happened? If you look at the URL, it runs not a Swift file. Somebody asked already, who will create this wrapper for me in HTML? It did it for you. So I'm running main.html, which inside has embedded Swift. It has HTML, maybe some JavaScript, and embedded hello.swift. Nothing happened when I click on the button, no miracles. Why? Because I didn't program click event yet, correct? Correct. Now let's go back to the project for a second, and let's look at the project structure again. What happened is, if I will open up the folder called bin debug, this is a place where all compiled code goes. So check this out. It has main HTML over here, that wrapper, and it has main Swift. Main Swift is used inside main HTML. And when I run it, it actually runs main HTML. And you saw it on the browser. Do you have questions? The main point is you should understand the flow. You compile XML, it produces the Swift, and Flex Builder generates an HTML wrapper for you, and you run it. Questions? All right. So now I want to follow the. I want to.
This file is created after.
If what?
This SWF file is created after running.
No, before. When I do Control S, when I save it, it tries to compile it, and if I don't have errors, it produces Swift. If you have errors, for example, I will do something stupid, and I do save. See, it put a red mark saying you have an error, so it will not produce Swift file because this is wrong. This code is wrong until you will fix at least the compilation. I fixed it. Now I want to stick to the manual, so you can do the same thing at home. So let's see. We are over here. See, you have a section in this Word document that I gave you. We have a section called Hello World, and this section Hello World is right here. I explained what is produced by Hello World code. Now I added to this document some shortcuts, but since you are Eclipse developers, you don't even need probably to know this. You have it anyway. So what we will do next, we will create a simple calculator program. What I will do, this document that you have, I will copy this code and paste it over there, run it, and I will explain you how it goes. Okay?
So in this one Flex project that you have not to
XML files, correct. Your Flex project will be pretty complex. You will have the whole bunch of XML files, a whole bunch of ActionScript files. You will group them in folders. Say these are my reusable components in ActionScript, and these are my views, the screens in XML. And you may also use style sheets, and you may use some other resources in a different subfolder, such as images that you want to use in the script. So your project consists of a whole bunch of files. Now, this is a valid question, basically. What's going to happen? Would they be all compiled into one single Swift? If I have 100 files written by me, it depends on how you will design your application. And basically, there is a way to modularize Flex application. You can create one main Swift and a number of libraries, so to speak. Again, since you are Java programmer, think of jars. You can have one main jar and a number of other jars. So your project can consist of multiple pieces, of course. But this is a very simple application. I mean, hello world, what else do you need? So, can you please close the door?
here only web design we can do, otherwise we can embed in Java code business logic and then how can we and if you want to design one web application, some employee data if you want how will you capture those data and send for business logic?
Business logic, it depends on where your business logic should reside. If you are talking about business logic on the client, it will not be Java. It will be written in Flex and ActionScript. ActionScript is a language similar to Java. I will do something simple with the calculator. I'll show you how I will start writing ActionScript. If you click on the button, do something about it. If you want to implement business logic on the server, go ahead and do whatever you do now. But I will make a call like in the example that I showed you before with employees.jsp, right? So do whatever you want on your Java site. But when you're ready to give me data, send me the data. So Business logic on the front is done in ActionScript. Business logic on the back end is done in Java or any other language that you like.
So just to take that further, so as a comparison in AppTracks, we can do almost everything. We can make it as complicated as we want to.
It can be really complicated.
Right.
This project for Mercedes that we just finished actually consisted of 20 or 25 projects in ActionScript and one project in Java. So literally in Flex Builder you would see 25 different projects. Each of them had a bunch of files plus a Java project, and we would compile the main applications that wouldn't include everything. If the user would never go to the menu option, design your own car, for example, that module would never be loaded. So we did it to make the size smaller. Otherwise, 200 screens, I mean, people would wait forever. But it's a different story how to modularize the application.
So my question was, in Applet, you could do all this on the client side without a backend, right? And you can design all your complex applications sitting on the client, or running from
The same thing here.
Everything on the client?
Yes.
Not with no backend?
Whatever you can do in Applet, almost. In Applet, you can have trusted applets which would give you an access to files.
Yeah.
In Flex, you cannot. Flex, Swift files are sitting the same model, by the way, as in Java in terms of security, sandbox model. They cannot touch files on the client. If you want something like this, you use Air, Adobe Air. But you can write everything you can write in Java. Let's move on. Calculator program. I'm copying this piece from the document, and I go back to Flex Builder. I don't want to work with this hello world anymore. But again, to illustrate this, I will not create a new project. In the same project, I will add a new MXML file. So, file, new. Now I don't want to say Flex project. I want to say MXML application. This is what I want. Another application. And calc1. I want to create a calculator. I decided to call it calc1. And I say finish. So it generated for me brand new application, nothing in there. But what I will do, I want to copy from my Microsoft Word document, right? So I will replace this code with the one that I have in that doc, and you have. I do save. When I do save, it compiles it. Let me quickly switch to the design mode. Look at this. This is the first version of the calculator. It has not much, but at least has much more than Hello World. Look, let's go and see what we have. You have a whole bunch of buttons, but now you also have containers. In Java you have layout managers, right, if you work with Swing. In this case you have containers. In the beginning, with this Hello World application, I told you that I had to specify coordinates, x and y's. It was because it was absolute layout. And if you look at this example, I changed it. I want it to be vertical layout. Application itself is a container as well. But I don't want to be limited or bound to physical coordinates, right? Similar to Java. Like flow layout, for example, we have it in Java, in Swing. So I want to use vertical layout, meaning if I put a button, put it up on top. You want to put another button, it'll go underneath. The next one under, and so on. If I would have selected horizontal layout, it would be placing components horizontally until there is a room on the line, and then to the next one, and so on. So when you design a screen, your goal is to first think of what are my layouts. Do I want to have this area will be my panel? And underneath I want to have a horizontal maybe line of buttons. And on this side I want to have something else. So you come up with layouts. And in this case you can see I am using something called panel. Panel is a layout. You don't, and the panel encapsulates something in there. It encapsulates a list component, a text component, and something that is called hbox. Hbox means horizontal box. If you want to have a number of components that are laid out horizontally, you say hbox, and inside you put your components, and they will be nicely laid out horizontally. And if you will look at it, I'll go back to the design mode. At the bottom, see this highlighted, my H box, which has inside the buttons. By the way, an interesting button is up over here. If you want to see what containers do I have, there's a button called Show Surrounding Containers. If you will click on it, it'll show you how I design my screen. See, I had a MX application, which is an outmost container, which in turn had a panel, right? At the bottom, it has an H box, so you can see it, your design.
Excuse me. All this design view, this part of the editor, is using Flex itself? Or is it?
Yeah, it is using Flex here. We are in
Flash.
This is not Flash, no. It's Flex Builder. So click again and it's gone. So when you design a calculator, say you want to design a calculator that will maybe in this large area, it'll print all your actions. Like, you know, these machines where with this roll of tape, right? You type it in and it'll calculate and it prints and it prints and it prints, like in the stores. Maybe you want to create this calculator. So this is the code, and this is the code that I copied from Microsoft Word document, right? So if I will run it now, we'll see it in action. Right click, run as Flex application. I run it and we have this calculator. Check this out, it's long. Why? Because I didn't use absolute layout. I didn't specify the sizes. I was using containers with a vertical layout. Meaning, if I specify the size, say 100%, instead of specifying the height, it'll take whatever space I have on the screen and make it longer. Or, if I don't want it to happen, I can limit it. And to do that, I would use different containers. Not like a V box or H box, which will with 100% height or 80% height of the screen. But I can use something else that is called canvas. There is another container called canvas. And if you have an area on the screen that you want to stay the same, always of this size, no matter how big or small the browser is, you instead of saying H box, you would say canvas. And it's an absolute layout in the middle. So, or not in the middle, anywhere. So you can have an H box or V box vertical layout for the rest of the screen, but this particular area is canvas. It always will be the same. Now the buttons don't work, of course, because there is no event programmed yet. But we are getting there. And let's open up the manual. This was the first version of the calculator, right? I'm scrolling down, and I want to create another version of the calculator, which is a bit more advanced. And now, first time, you're going to see the ActionScript as well as MXML. Copy. I go back to Flex Builder. I want to create another application, Calc 2 now, right? So let's do this. File. New MXML application, another one in the same project, and I will say Calc 2. Finish. I wonder, is this cultural to leave the house and not close the door? Thank you. So this is the second version of the calculator. And now you will see some coding already with ActionScript. Look at this. MX script. Something new. Whenever you want to use ActionScript, you put it here. One case. And if you are a pure object-oriented programmer, you can say, I don't want to create a mess, I don't want to mix MXML and ActionScript. Be my guest and save them separately in the files with extension .as. Not MXML, but AS. And you can include them. You can say MX script space source is equal and name of that file with your ActionScript. if you want to make it absolutely simple. Possible. But for us, it's not that important. What is important though, look at this. You have the script section and C data section. This is XML syntax if you know XML. C data means don't touch it, don't parse it, leave it alone. And why we want to do something like that? Because we want to use the syntax of programming language, which, for example, it may have a less than equal sign. We don't want it to think that it's an angled bracket from XML, right? So we're saying, this is my piece, leave it alone, don't touch it. I know what to do with it, so don't parse it. But first, the very simplest version of something that is done in ActionScript is so-called inline ActionScript. Look at this button. Now we have a button, and I want to process something. I want to process some action. This is button with a label 1. I have 1, 2, 3, 4. Real quick, let's go and see the design mode. I have a text field and I have 4 buttons in there. But these buttons will respond to events. And to respond to an event, I need to say, on click event, do this or do that. How can I say this? I have to write some ActionScript. In a very primitive form, I say, right here, right inside the double quotes, I say, on click event, my result dot text. My result is nothing else but the text field. It's a text input that you saw up on top. If it's like a variable, when you want to, text input is like an object, but if you want to give it a name, like a reference variable that refers to the instance, you say ID is equal, my result. Now you have a variable, my result. So what I'm saying here, I say my result dot text plus equal 1, like in Java, right? Add or attach to the text field my result digit 1. Attach. If I wouldn't say plus equal, it would replace whatever I had in that text field with 1. I don't want to replace. I want to attach. Or, for example, this one, the next one has a label 2. Label 2, and I can say, I say, whenever the click will happen, attach digit 2 to this text field, my result. Correct? Let's test this part for now. I will save the code, and I will run it. Right click, run, as a Flex application. And I will click on button number 1 and button number 2. And let's see what happens. I click on button number 1, and it put 1 in there. See that? 1. I click again, and it put 1s in there. I am concatenating 1s to whatever was there before. Now I click on button number 2. Now it's 2s, right? So click event works. You click, inline ActionScript, it does the job. But it's a very primitive case, of course. We want to be able to write a lot more complicated scripts than just one-liner. And I decided to create a function. I want to write a portion in ActionScript. Sorry, can you please close the door? Thank you. So I want to write a function, display digit, and I want every button to call the same function, maybe passing an argument. So check this out. This is syntax for a function. Now let me tell you a little bit about the functions. In Java, you cannot have standalone function or a method, right? In Java, methods are sitting inside classes. In here, it doesn't have to be the case. It still will be the case. If you will put a function inside the class, we can say this is a method. But if you want, you can have just a function, standalone. And this is a function signature. You say function, you give it a name, say display digit. And in this case, it has a parameter, in parentheses, an argument of type string. You say digit, name of the variable, colon, string. In Java, it's reverse. In Java, you would say data type and the name of a variable. And here you say variable, colon, data type of string. And at the end, void, it's return value. Will this function return value or not? In this case, we don't return anything, so we say void. A little bit different syntax in this case, but it's still a function. Then you put curly braces, and you say my result dot text plus equal digits. So whatever argument will come to this function, we want to attach it to my result field. That's the function, correct? And I call it right here. Under button number 4, I call it over here. I call the function display digit in ActionScript, and I pass a parameter 4 to this function. So I will run it now, and we will test it that button number 4 also works. But what's the difference between 1, 2, 3, and 4? In the first 3 cases, I was using very simple inline ActionScript, but in case of the button number 4, I'm calling a separate function, reusable function, so to speak. If I want, obviously I can add more buttons that also will be using the same function. Let me run it now. Now number 4. See, it works also. But this one calls a function. Do you have to trust me? No. What we will do next, I'll show you how to use a debugger in Eclipse. So we can stop right there, and you will see that, yes, we are in that function, and you will see the variables in there. Yeah, what's the question?
So these names of the elements that you have put in, so the elements are identified by those names, right? And
ID. You have ID is equal.
Right. So these are unique in a panel or in a particular page?
They are unique in the object. You can create a class in ActionScript. In that case, you can define variables similar to Java, either on the class level or inside the function. Or in this case, the variable will be visible in the entire MXML file in this case.
Okay.
So I can keep writing function, and all of them will see this ID is equal my result. If I will say in this script, MX script source is equal some other action script, so I kind of included, you can also refer from that script these names. So what I want to do now, I want to show you a debugger. To put a breakpoint, I want to put a breakpoint over here on this line. My result text equals something. I double click on it. See, I double click and I put a bullet over there on the gray area. You want to remove it? It's Eclipse basically. It's nothing special. And I want to run it in the debug mode. Now, important part is when you run the application in the debug mode, you use debug version of Flash Player. So when you install Flex Builder, it also installs a plugin for Firefox or for RIA, ActiveX, that debug version of the player. Now, if I want to debug it, I will run it not like I did before, but I will run it in the debug mode. I will not say run as, but I will say debug as. See this? Or you can use again, if you are familiar with Eclipse, there is a debug icon or run icon over here.
You got the debug version of Flash Player. Does it come with the SDK?
It comes with SDK, right? When you will install Flex Builder, or even if you will not install Flex Builder, it'll be available for you. So check it out. I will say debug as Flex application. Again, very simple change. Instead of run as, I do debug as. And whenever I hit that breakpoint, it will bring me to a debug perspective, like in your Java case. So I will click on this number 4. See, it's blinking over there. Maybe you don't see, but it tells me I stopped. The Eclipse icon is blinking. I'll go there. It says, do you want me to launch the Flex debugging perspective? I say yes. Remember my decision. I want to launch. See, it brings me to a debug perspective. I'm standing on this line now, like in Eclipse, and I can inspect what I have. And let's see what I have up on top. It has something called this. The same concept as in Java. This represents the instance of the current object. In this case, it's an application. It has a variable digit. Remember, we have the argument called digit over here. see my result text, a plus equal digit. And I can see that its value is 4. See this? So it really came as an argument to my function, number 4, because I clicked on the button number 4. And also, important, there is a statement called trace. The statement trace is also used for debugging. If you don't want to stop in the debugger, for example, you can put trace. This is a little bit different than in Java. In Java, you can say system out println anywhere. And regardless, if you run it in debug mode or if you run it in a regular mode, it will print whatever you put in there. In here, it's different. If you will be using the statement trace, it will be working only if you will be running it in the debug mode. If you will just run it in a regular mode, it will not output anything to the console. So I will do step over. The same buttons, one second, the same buttons for the debugger over here, like it's Eclipse. I'll do step over, it will go to another side. I do step over. The trace at the bottom, at the console, look at this. At the console, the trace statement said, in function display digits, the argument is equal 4. Right, this is the trace statement was executed. So this would be executed even if I wouldn't put any breakpoint, but in the debug mode only. And I want to continue. Let me finish this application. I hit continue. Yes, the questions.
How do we ever debugging on file? In the sense, some customer has an issue and then you want to collect symptoms. How do we do that in this? Trace works only debug mode, right?
Trace works in the debug mode, but Flex has logging API, so you can log anything you like, and you can log either on the client side. There is a way to redirect, by the way, trace statement in file as well. Plus, there is a logging API as well. So, who else? Any other questions?
Can we debug it from the
One second.
Can we debug this application from the
Yes. We can debug. This is what we do. Basically, you can connect to Tomcat. Say Tomcat runs your Java programs. Over here we have Flex program. You run Flex in the debug mode, and when it goes to Java, you can remotely connect and keep debugging Java code, and then again back and debug Flex code. I'll show you closer to the end. The Flex, we write a Flex blog in our company, flexblog.faratasystems.com. In there, one of the articles I've written how to debug your Flex and Tomcat application, and I explain everything, the steps how you can remotely debug it. Mm-hmm.
There's a warning and a function that it won't be visible outside of package in the code.
Speaking of visibility, it's a different thing. It's done if you will be doing classes, if you will be writing ActionScript classes. They have keywords, public, private, protected, like in Java. So you can control visibility of particular functions if they are methods, right? In this case, this is not a method. This is a standalone function. It'll be visible through entire application, but not from other objects that may be also in this project. Okay, let's move on. So what do we get next? We went through this calculator. Now, the big one. The third calculator shows you how to use CSS in Flex. Are you guys, how many people are web developers in general? So how many people know what is CSS? Okay, majority, but I will still say that. CSS is cascading style sheets. So you work with designers. Designer will come up and will give you a design, and they will decide, I want these exactly colors and these logos, and this is how our company is supposed to look like. And they would give you a CSS file, typically. And Flex supports cascading style sheets as well. Not only you can just get a CSS file and use it in your project, but you also can use specifically in your program. You can use, there is a special tag called MX style. You can use it in your code. You can say MX style for my button, I want to have this background color, or maybe this gradient. But typically we work with designers. Designers are people who are responsible for creating styles for us. So we do whatever they say. We don't argue with them because they are responsible for this. So in the third version of the calculator, I'm going to be using the CSS file. As you can see over here, I will just copy it and paste it to the project as a file. See, but the bottom line is, when you create styles, you can say, I want to apply this style to these kind of objects. For example, in this case, you can say, I want to everything in my application to have background color black. Or you can say button and then specify styles for the button. In that case, you would be every button that you will put on the screen will play by the rules or by the colors, maybe sizes, maybe font sizes that you specify for the button. So you can style components, or you can create a generic style, which will be a combination of some maybe colors, fonts, and so, and use it to any components that you like at your will. So in this case, these styles start with dot, the so-called class style. So you create something, see calc style. It's not a button, it's not something, but you want to say, I want to have this combination of styles, and I want to give it a name. And this name is calc style. And then, whenever you want to use it, you will say, for this component, please, style name is equal calc style. So this is kind of generic or universal style that you can reuse throughout your application. Or in this case, see, we want to create calc display. For the display field of this calculator, we want to have this bunch of the combination of styles. And again, you will say style name is equal calc display. And what I will do, see, it says calc CSS. I will copy this, the whole piece of code, and I will create a new file in my project, and I will call it calc.css. Just a file. It's not XML, it's not ActionScript, just a file. So in here, what I will do, I will say right-click, new, but in this case I will specify file. I just want to create a file over here. File. For CSS. I will paste in there CSS, but it's a plain file. It's nothing. What do we call it? Calc CSS, right? Calc.css, right? And I say finish. It creates for me an empty file. Let me go from debugging perspective. I want to go to development perspective. So it's an empty file. I just paste whatever I had in my Microsoft Word. And this is my calc.css. For now, nobody is using it yet. But the next portion in my Word document is XML that will be using this CSS. Right underneath, there is a third version of the calculator which will be using this CSS style. It's a bit bigger. So I will do Control-C, and then I go to my project, and I want to create Calc3 now. New XML application. I will call it Calc3. Finish. And I will replace this empty application with the one that I copied from the Word document. By the way, guys, if you don't need my flash drive, please return it. See, it gives me an error. Something is wrong. It shows me a red X. Something is not nice. And obviously, you can also click over here on the right-hand side. It doesn't like something. Problem finding external style sheets calc CSS. See, over here I'm sitting under SRC folder, right? But calc CSS is sitting one level above, so it doesn't see it, right? So let's see if we can fix it. Something like this. Yeah, it works. I'm saying go one level up. CSS file is there. So now I will run this Calc3 and check this out. This line, MX style source is equal. And I say my styles are located in that file, CSS file that you receive from the designer. And that's about it. Tomorrow, designer decides to change something. They will change CSS and they will give it to you another file. But your program stays the same. So now let me run it now. the third calculator, styled calculator. See, it's absolutely different. The same code, but everything is a little bit different. Remember, there was a style for the application, background color black. Remember that? So now the whole thing is black. Somewhere the button were styled and so on. So definitely this is the right practice. If you want to create applications that are flexible, move your styling outside to the CSS file. Do you have questions?
This is related to a earlier question that I had. As a designer, if I'm moving, I went through the whole effort of learning how to build CSS across browsers and all that compatibility stuff, right? There's a headache for designers. So I would expect that if I move into Next.
Yeah, you will reuse your knowledge. You will not lose it. Everything is applicable. Yeah, everything is applicable with whatever you know now. And check this out. For example, where do we have styles? Where do we use them? Over here, for example, I have a panel. And I said, style name is equal. And I said something, calc style. This calc style should be defined in your CSS, and it starts with a dot. This is not the styling for a component, but it's a generic style that I want. Or over here, for the list component is that big rectangular white area that I'm using. It says style name is equal different style, calc list style. So, do you have questions?
So with this tool,
Terminal.
I wouldn't even need to deal with CSS at all, right?
Right.
I might be able to set
That's correct.
and everything in Flash.
That's correct. Now, important technique that Java doesn't have is so-called view states and transitions. It's a pretty nice technique, and I'll show it to you now. Now we are switching to a different application. Say you want to design a screen that has more than one state. Well, by state, I mean different layout of the component. Maybe some components are not visible in this state. Maybe some components are larger. For example, if you are the manager and you go to this screen with manager ID, then you're supposed to see more components on the screen. If you are not, you are supposed to see less components of the screen. Something like this. So it's a pretty nice technique, and I highly recommend you to look at it. So what's the big idea? If, say, in Java, for example, you design a screen which has 20 components, some buttons, radio buttons, whatever. And out of these 20, 15 should be displayed always, no matter who you are, the user. But 5 of them may or may not be displayed, or maybe they will even change sizes. So how to do something like that? In Java, you would just write a whole bunch of if statements saying if user ID is both visible, otherwise not visible, right? For all these components. This is what you would do. But in Flex, there is a much nicer way to do this. You need to start thinking in states, view states. This is one view of my application or a screen, and this is another view. And you will be easily switching between one state and the other. You will say current state is equal ABC, or current state is equal XYZ, and immediately all magic will happen. And I will show it to you now. I will do something similar that I have in the doc, but I will do it just voluntarily. I will create I describe it well in the doc, but I will just create a new application now, just to illustrate you the concept. See, test what states. Say I have a screen, and on this screen I want to have some components visible or not visible depending on something. First of all, let me put some components in there. I will drop the button in there, and I will put a checkbox, and I will put some text, say text area, multi-line text field. So this is my screen. And of course, the source code was written automatically over here. Look at this. It's only several lines of code. By the way, if in the middle gray bar, if you will do right click and show line numbers, you will see the line numbers, right? But again, it's Eclipse. It's not specific to Flex Builder. So we have 7 lines for now, and this is how it looks. Now, please check this out. There's an area on the right-hand side, up on top. You see it only when you are in the design mode, and this is an area to define view states. Even now, even if you will not define view states, you always have at least one state, so-called base state of your screen. But you are allowed to create new states. Say, for example, if the user wants to see maybe advanced details of some data, I want to have a second state with an extra component in there. So what I will do, I will, in here, in this white area, I will say right click, new state, and I will call it, say, advanced. It's up to you what you call it. So I am creating a new state for my screen based on the base state. So for now they are the same. The new screen doesn't have anything yet. They still have these components, but I want you to take a look at the code. Just because I added a new state, it automatically created for me these tags. They were not there before. States. And it knows that I already created one. I can have more than one state. Maybe there are different situations on your screen that will switch states. So advanced state is already there. It's defined, but I don't do anything with it yet. Let's go back to the design mode. Now it becomes important which state is selected. And let's do this. I will select advanced state, and now I will add one more component to the screen. Say I want to add a color picker. There is a color picker now, but only if advanced state is selected. If I will go back to the base state, you will not see it, right? Because I wanted it to belong to advanced state. Again, click on advanced, you see, right? Now let's look at the code, what happened. The code was written for me automatically. I said add child, it did for me. I just dropped in on the screen, I dropped this color picker, right? And it did it for me. It said add child, and it automatically added color picker for me. But check this out, it's sitting inside the state advanced. So this action of adding a new child will happen only when this application will be in the advanced state. Otherwise not. Let me just run this as is. You can remove. You can add child, you can remove something existing, or you can resize stuff. And so there is add child, there is remove child, and there is so-called set property. So maybe in this state you had a small text area, but you click on the checkbox advanced and it's supposed to grow. Not only you can make it larger, but you can also apply effects to this action. So it will grow, but it will grow slowly. Maybe it will grow with animation. Maybe you will use one of the effects that come with Flex, like dissolve or fade in or wipe out. So this transition between one state and the other will happen, and not only it will happen, but it will happen nicely. If you will use transitions and effects. So.
These states will be associated with applications, or can I have VBox which has to be?
Very good question. Excellent question. I will spend some time, in about probably 10 to 15 minutes, I will start talking about how to create components in Flex. And if you will create a reusable component, you are allowed to use states for this component as well. So you can have an application with multiple states, plus some widget, which will also have state. And you will use this widget with components, and you can change this view state on that widget itself. Or you can change states on the application. So let's do it real quick. I will run it. Run this Flex application, but nothing will happen. You will see the main application with the base state. That's it. At this point, I don't have any mechanism to change the state. to go to advanced. But I will do this. So let's do this. On the click on the button, I want to switch to another state. So I will see that color picker. Let's do it. So on the click event of this button, on line number 10, I will say click event. What do I want to say? I want to say current state is equal whatever state I want it to be now. And I have state name advanced, line number 4. So I will say in this double quotes, current state is equal, and the name is advanced. And closed single bracket. That's it. Done. So by one click, it automatically, what it will do, it will apply the action that we are defined for this state. In our case, it's just one action. But again, since somebody asked me, let me show you removal as well. So in the new advanced state, I want to add this color pickle, but I want to remove this checkbox. So I'm standing on the advanced state, and I'm physically deleting checkbox from the screen. Let's take a peek at the code. See, now line number 8. You have removed child too. So it knows that whenever somehow I will switch to this state, I need to do this action, meaning add child, and that action, meaning remove child. So let's run it. Run as. So this is my application. If I will click on the button, it'll execute current state is equal advanced. Remember? So let me do this. Click. I have a color picker, and the checkbox is gone. Unfortunately, I didn't provide any way to come back to the main state, right? So obviously, ideally, you need to provide something else in this state. So you click on that, or you do something, and it again, current state is equal. Just put empty single quotes, and it'll go back to the base state. So you can easily switch. So say you have a screen, you design an online store, and users can put items in a shopping cart. But you just show a small panel on the top corner saying your shopping cart has 5 items. What if the user wants to see what I have in my shopping cart at this moment? You have a checkbox, for example, over there saying show details or show content of my shopping cart. You click on it, and what you do? You switch state. In the second state, you display another list component that display every item that you have in your shopping cart. Just by the click on the button, you just say current state is equal shopping cart detail. Done.
Can you associate other kind of other functions for this particular new state?
Right, you can. You can associate. You can use something called transitions. I don't remember if I put it over here. Maybe not for this workshop, but it's a pretty simple thing. When you are changing state, you can define a transition. It is there or no?
Say a requirement where I need to display a component based on some packet data which is coming. Say a list gets displayed only when there is some data.
I got your question. How to change the state based on some value of a variable? It's also a good question. I'll address it in a minute. I will explain you binding. But let me finish with you. So when you say current state is equal something, it'll switch the state, but it switched immediately at this point. Maybe this is not what you want. You want to have more engaging user experience. You want to add animation to it. So what you can do, you can create transition. And you can say transition from is equal, from this state, from base to effect name is equal, say, fade effect. So whenever this application will be switching between base state and advanced state, you want to apply effect fade in. 2 lines of code and it's done. It's not actually I have it, guys. I have it. I'm lying. Page number 8 of your document. Check it out. See, when you can we don't have much time, so I will just show you on the screen, but take a look. You define a transition, you say transition from state, from any state to state advanced. So no matter how, but whenever you need to go to the advanced state, apply a max resize. It's a resize effect. You want to resize what? In this case, there's some advanced panel on the screen, and duration is equal to 400 milliseconds. So you want to change the size of that component, but make it slowly or faster. You want to make it during 400 milliseconds. So you have it like an animation. Something grows slowly. And Flex has a number of effects. MX resize is one of them. There's like a dozen already predefined effects.
Something nice about these ideas libraries is that they kind of abstract a lot of the low-level coding, but you can use combinations of
in here too.
To create new effects.
In here too, you can create parallel effects and sequence effects as well. You can have a bunch of effects, and you can say, I want to apply resize effect and fade in effect or dissolve effect. And how do you want to apply it? Sequentially or parallel? You say MX parallel, and you say I want it to be resize and gone at the same time. Now there are libraries. One of them is for Flex. It's called. It's an interesting piece for you. It's called Twinner. And that also is something useful when you want to create effects in Flex. Alrighty. So data binding, super important and excellent feature, and Java is getting there, but it's a bit too slow. What is data binding in general? Data binding is a way of one object watch some property of another object. Watch a variable, so to speak. I'm coming to answering your question. Say you have a variable, and if the variable changes, you want something to happen. So you can bind the value of that variable to this something. And whenever that variable changes, it'll emit event saying my property was changed or whatever, and I will know it immediately. Now it's a lot easier to explain than actually it's a lot easier to show you than you keep talking. So I will I'm copying it from your Microsoft Word document. Let me create a new application again. File, new. Data binding technically can change the way you program. Unfortunately, we don't have time in this workshop, but in some other workshops, definitely I show you some really advanced examples of how to use it. Say test binding. I want to finish this section because we have 1 hour to go, and I want to make it real complex. So that section will be not real complex. I want to go deep into design mode. So if I will ask you a Java program, if I will give you an assignment like this, do this for me. How many lines of code do you need? You need to implement observer and observable pattern. You need to define listeners. You need to dispatch events, right? And let's look at this beauty. How many lines? It's done. This program is written using binding. And I will first of all, let me show it to you, and then I'll tell you about the syntax. So we are running this program, and what will happen now, I will be typing in this text field, and you will see how the label underneath, now you don't see it because it doesn't have any values. So, see? It works. So what can we say? That the label is watching the property text of the text field. So whenever it changes, the label knows about it immediately. It gets notified. Now coming back again to your questions, so you can watch a value of a variable. You can say that you can bind that variable to some component on the screen, and whenever some data come from a server and they change this variable will emit this event, and you will see it right away on the screen. So you will be binding. One second. How did we do this? Just curly braces. Look at this. There are a couple of more syntax for binding, but check this out. The label is ID, I gave ID my label, and I said text is equal, but I didn't put any hard text. I said, in curly braces, I said, my text field dot text. My text field is in line number 3, the variable name for the text field up above, right? And the curly braces do the trick. It means binding. So what I say is to this label, watch for me the property text of my text field, and whenever it changes, give me the value. So we are binding the value of that variable to this label. That's it. I put it in curly braces and it's done. The rest is done. Whenever that changes, this knows about it. Now, coming back to real-world scenarios. You have something coming in from the server side. You have some feed, some data feed. And the data feed comes into some collection. And this collection, in Flex, you implement MVC definitely, and some components are implement this model view controller paradigm. You have a data grid, and you have an array collection. It's like array list in Java. And this array collection is getting data from some server side, from Java. So you call a method in Java, it gives you back an array, which comes in an array collection. You bind this array collection to the data grid. You say data provider in the data grid is equal name of this array collection. Initially is empty, fine, the data grid is empty. At some given point in time, you get the data, boom, you get the data grid immediately refreshed. You have a data feed, maybe new data comes, maybe you want to display log messages. So the system works, it logs stuff, and you have the messages coming in. I will show it to you in a minute. That's sampled. And this is the easiest way. Now, the beauty of it is that you may have more than one display bound to the same collection. You may want to display the same data as a data grid or as a chart, like a pie chart or a bar chart, something, right? So but the data feed is one and only. So you say, this guy, the data grid is bound to this collection, to this one. See this one? And the chart is also bound to the same collection, the same and only. And they're just bound to different UI components, and it works. Any more questions?
If the data feed, say, consists of any type of collection, like we are having something being returned from the backend, from Java, say, any type of collection like a map or a sort of thing, and that can also be worked out with this thing.
Yes. Again, unfortunately, it is a short workshop, but we are using the concept of the DTO, or value objects, or data transfer object. You can define a class in Java, say employee. In there you will have last name, first name, and salary. And on the front end you will define ActionScript peer, so to speak, a friend of that employee, employee.as with the same field. And when Java will be returning an array of instances of employee.java, they will be recreated here as an array of instances of employee.as, right? And this collection is bound to a data grid, and you see all employees. So this is exactly how we work. So when you design an application, you need to agree on how do you pass data to each other. And we will define some DTO, data transfer object, with these parameters, and we will be sending them back and forth.
So if I take the same scenario to Fain architecture, would that be a model locator, what you're talking about? And the Java would be the remote service?
The Java would be, the delegate, if you use caregoing framework, which I don't recommend. But if you are using it, the delegate from the caregoing would be calling Java, and as you correctly say, the model locator would find the model and populate the result set in the model. You're right.
Why would you not recommend Fain? Is there any better model?
We use components. We use standard components. Caregoing framework is overly complicated, produces too many classes, too many events, and it ties your application. I just came off the project it's based on singleton, too many singletons, and you have to register everything through one front controller in caregoing. And I have multiple modules, layers, different projects, and now they all need to report to this guy. So what's the point of modularizing application if somebody needs to know and expect all these other modules? Basically, it's poorly designed framework. It was designed based on struts, I think, and I think it's going to be gone soon. Even though people are using it. For consultants, the only advantage I can see, you can put more consultants in project if the project is using Ergo. People who keep writing code, there'll be a ton of classes. So I don't know, you guys are in the outsourcing area, so maybe you should be using Ergo. But this is not what we use. One thing I wanted to show you real quick. Let me, since we are talking about this application, I want to show you a real quick demo of a monitoring application. Look at this one. Let me refresh. This is like 200 lines of code. The data feed comes in. Again, pay attention that we are sitting in the browser, right? So, say these are the messages. This is like foreign exchange trading system. Somebody is buying stuff, somebody is selling stuff, and we are sitting in production support and want to watch what exactly happens. On the right-hand side, I displayed red messages which require attention. I click on it, and in the middle, I say what to do if this message happens, the message with this ID. Call Jennifer at this number and do something about it. Now, and the messages keep coming in. You see, they keep coming in. In this case, for demo purpose, I just create a random number generator, like as if they are coming, and I set a timer, and every second I generate some random message, as if it comes. Now, on the left-hand side, I have messages that don't require attention. So I use the divider. I can slide it, so I will not even see. At the bottom, I'm using charting in Flex. See, every time I get a message, it comes to some collection, and this collection updates both this top data grid as well as charts at the bottom. These charts are alive. They are not static. See, you can move, and they are changing. As new data would be coming in, you would be seeing these slices of the pies different. These little panels are resizable, right? You can collapse them. You can expand it if you want. So this is an example of a simple logging application. We want to monitor log files. So logs come in, and there is a data feed, and binding is used in there. But since I show you one demo, let me.
What is all architecture that we use for this? Do you have a backend which is using for something?
The backend, in this situation, the backend is Java. Typically, it could be a JMS, Java messaging. If it's not JMS, you may have polling. So every 5 seconds or so, you make a call to Java. Give me the log files. You may have multiple systems that produce logs. These logs may be coming to a central database, and you keep querying that database, and you keep updating the screen, for example. This is also a typical situation. Let me show you a large an application which I just finished for Mercedes. You will see it at my booth. I will be projecting it to the back. What happened? See, this is a new site. It'll be live in a month. Look at the graphic. See these transitions, effects. These are nice design. We received all the pictures from a different group who are designers. They have no clue about Flex, but we received it from them. We created the effect and so on. So the user can see that. You click on this icon and you see the car or whatever. Then you click on the vehicle, and the fleet of the vehicle comes in. In that case, there was Vignette. That was a content-generated system. Java was producing the content. People, whoever decide what kind of deals they want to offer at Mercedes, what kind of cars, they can change it. And Flex application makes a call to Vignette server saying, give me everything about the model C320. And it'll get whatever we have today now, and it'll display it. It'll display it on the screen, of course. And these are nice effects and transition, of course. It's an absolutely different application. One more thing, say this one is a different one. See, we created like a portal. It's all Flex. There's nothing else. So in that case, it's a company that ships stuff to different places, and they want to find the vendor. They want to evaluate which vendor is the best. For example, if I will buy it from you, it'll be cheaper, but it'll take me longer. If you buy it from you, it'll be faster, but it'll be more expensive. So some processing logic that allows them to understand and realize what are my profits and losses and so on. So you can create different things in Flex. And again, think about it. You're sitting in the browser. Think of Ajax. How many lines of code you need to write to do something like this in Ajax?
No.
Ajax projects are expensive, even though you don't pay anything for JavaScript, so to speak. Yep.
Those widgets are like available, like a library that people can buy? Or?
Yeah, many of them are available. First of all, the Flex comes with charging by default. The previous applications I showed you about monitoring, whatever Flex gives you already. When you purchase Flex Builder, but not standard, but professional edition, you already have all charts are there, a whole bunch. Pretty simple to set. If you want to, again, to have some fancier chart with special effects, they are also available by third-party companies. Some of them are free, some of them are on sale. For example, there's a company called iLog. They are famous for rules engine, but they also created, I think it's called Elixir, the whole bunch of UI for charting. There is a company called Degraph. Degraph also created a whole bunch of nice effects and for UI. Who else? There is 3D chart, 3D graphic in charting called Paper Vision, one of them, or Waves 3D. All this is available in Flex. So when you start working with Flex, it's like the whole world of stuff. It's not like I like this library because it has a nice checkbox, and it's different world anyway. So okay, so let's do. Flex is using similar security like Java, sandbox security. You can specify policy files. You can say that this, obviously, first of all, what do you deploy on the server? You deploy a Swift file, an HTML file, and they are downloading from this particular server. Now, you can specify the policy file, and you can say, I want to allow access to this application only from this domain, only from these IP addresses. You can allow, disallow, and this is done. So, but again, it's sitting inside the VM. It's like a sandbox model, like with Java, and it cannot do anything. It cannot give you damage. It cannot do like cross-scripting like you would have in JavaScript.
So these policies files sit on the Flex server, on where the.
They are sitting there, but you load them from your code. In your Flex code, you load the policy file, and you know exactly what cannot be done. There is a way to specify proxy service and so on. So there are different things. Now let me go to some heavier stuff. I don't have much time for this, but if you will follow these instructions, you will. Actually, it's up to you guys. I don't have enough time to cover everything that I have in this file. If you want, I can show you something more simple, how to populate a data grid from a JSP. If you want, I will explain you like design principles and how to program custom components and events, which is just kind of interesting. Components. All right, so let's do this. So when you get a spec for the UI, designer created you an application. An application can be pretty complex. And maybe it makes sense for me to show you a screen that, let me show you the screen first. So first of all, I show you the screen, then I will show you these nice squares so you will understand what I want to say better. This screen was from a recent project for the foreign exchange company. Where is this doc? Yeah, check this out. Check this out. So this is a trading screen for online trading company. They sell and buy currencies. So on the left hand side, you see the whole bunch of trading or pricing panels. I mean, when you run it, obviously data feed comes in. These are the latest prices. These are like major The price for this one is, for example, 141, and these are the digits, like third and fourth digits after this one. Everything is moving and changing over here. So different currencies. These are euros versus somebody wants to buy dollars for euros, somebody wants to buy Japanese yen for euros, and so on. Each panel is for one currency pair. Now, so everything is flashing. Now, I'm a trading sitting looking at this screen. When I like the price, say I like this price, I click on the panel, it becomes active. I change the style of the panel, by the way, on the fly. And I click on the button, bid or offer, for example. I click on it, and then the next panel, which is an order panel, pops up. So I have a chance to enter how many dollars or euros I want to buy. I enter 5,000, I click on the button send. The order sends for the execution, Java picks it up. At some point it gets executed, I get back the message that it's done, and over here I will see my transactions. So I purchase this much or that much, this much. Anyway, I got this from a designer. And now you look at this screen, which is pretty involved. And you need to make a decision. How do I go about this screen? I know Flex. You need to try to decide which components are there. I need to design components in Flex. And if I'm a manager of the project, or an architect, I will say, I need this component, that component, and this component. You will be working on this component, and you will work on that component, separately. When you are ready, we will bring them together, and we need to decide how these two components will talk to each other. Look at this. By the way, I will tell you up front that in this case I have created one component for the pricing. This is one component in Flex based on the V panel. In that V panel, I put a whole bunch of, based on the V box, vertical. I put in there some other components, maybe some other internal layouts, and it's done. The data feed comes from somewhere, and I need to know what my data feed contains. And my data feed contains, first of all, the name of the currency pair, the so-called big price, best price, and all these different parts have the name. So I have a class in Java which has all these properties that represent the price that I received. Accordingly, I have a class in ActionScript that also has the same features. So this is my value object, or data transfer object as we call it. So I expect it from Java. But even on the front end, we agreed that this class will be sort of the protocol to exchange between different objects. Between whom? Now this guy, the yellow, is a separate object that Mary will develop. And we agreed that pricing panel, whenever the user will hit the button bid or offer, will fire an event to the order panel, right? And it'll pass along with this event an instance of this DTO or value object with whatever I want to buy, because I need to know where the user clicked and what is the current price and so on, right? So we agreed that at least there are more components over here, but at least you see two: pricing panel and order panel, and we also need to agree on the value object that we want to pass around. So they click on the event, click on the button bid, generate an event. In that event, we package nicely an instance of the value object and send it over to the order panel. In this case, ActionScript to ActionScript talk to each other, two components, using the value object to pass it value. Again, since we're looking at this screen and we spoke about view states, I can show you over here an example where I was using this technique to play with view states, to switch different states. Check this out. These four panels, or order panels in the middle, are pretty much similar. If you click on the bid or offer, we are supposed to show both sides of this panel. But if you click on one of these blue buttons, blue squares, it would be either in order to buy or in order to sell. If you order to buy, in this case, see we say buy request. I don't need to display the right portion. This one. I just want to display this one. If it's a sell request, I don't need to display left portion, I need to display this one. So what I did, I created a component, the order panel, but inside I defined several view state. And whenever somebody say, create for me an order panel, I also set, and this is your question by the way, I also say, your view state will be sell, or bid, or off. And based on that, it immediately switch current state is equal bid. And boom, you see on the left side or the right side. So view states, right, in action. But anyway, now this project is done, so I explain you how everything was done. But in the beginning, they give you something like this and do whatever you want with it. How to program. And so somebody has to understand all these components and look at it and do a design. The question is, how do you approach something like this? And now you're ready to listen to my other story with this. So now, to make the explanation simpler, I just put all these figures on screen. But you think of that screen that I just showed. You need to decide for yourself how many components will be there. For example, we said pricing panel, yes, it will be there. And the order panel, yes, it will be there. The main thing is that you should design components in a loosely coupled way. What does it mean? It means components shouldn't know about each other. If I am a pricing panel, I should not assume that next to me there is somewhere an order panel. I shouldn't say order panel dot do something. What if I want to reuse this pricing panel somewhere else on a different screen which doesn't have an order panel? So we don't want to use these dependencies inside the object. So statement number 1, objects should be able to talk to each other. Statement number 2, they should not depend on each other. Statement number 3, how the hell am I going to do this? If the pricing panel doesn't know about order panel, how I'm going to pass some data to the order panel? And the thing is that I'll tell you how to use events. So the pricing panel will dispatch an event. And in that event, it'll have inside, nicely packaged, the value object with current prices. The other panel, it's a different screen. The order panel will be listening to the event. And it knows whoever will fire on me event, place, order, it'll give me something else inside, which I should be expecting. So basically, when you design a component order panel, for example, you are writing it as if you have everything you need. You write, yes, I received this value object, and this is what I'm going to do about it. But you don't say, go and grab it from somewhere. When the time will come, somebody will fire an event on you and will pass you this object. So assume it's there. I don't know if it's valid comparison, but if you people, if somebody is using Spring Framework, anyone? In Spring Framework, the popular concept is inversion of control or dependency injection. Which means what? You write a bin and you configure something in XML saying that this something will give you whatever you need. You don't go and ask. They will give you whenever it comes. So this means that inversion of control, that I don't go and grab when I want, but I will be given when they will decide. Sometimes it's called also a Hollywood principle. Don't call me, I'll call you. You know how these relations in Hollywood. So over here, let's see. So you design a screen, and in this case, I recommend to use something that is called mediator design pattern. Mediator. Which means what? To put it simple, there are two components that need to talk to each other. But there should be someone else, the third party, who will mediate this conversation. So, check this out. I look at the screen, say there is some container, number 2. And inside of that container, I decided to put two reusable objects, number 4 and number 5. Number 4 and number 5 should not know about each other. So if number 4, again, I am a designer of this screen. If components are designed in a loosely coupled fashion, if number 4 needs to give something out, it'll fire an event. To whom? It's none of its business. It'll fire an event. Now, mediator, number 2, is supposed to know about these events and listen to these events. So whenever it happens, number 2 needs to know that I also have number 5 next to me, so let me pass it to the number 4. So it goes like this. For example, number 4 fires the event, mediator gets it, and sends an event to number 4 with the same data. So if you think again about that pricing panel and order panel and the value object in between, say for example, this is the pricing panel, number 4. The user presses the button send, or buy, or bid. It fires an event and packages into that event object all the data about this pricing order, and it sends it to the application. Application listens to it. As soon as it happens, it gets it, and this application knows that I have an order panel, this yellow one. So it will send an event to the order panel, again, forwarding that value object with receipt from 4. In this case, number 4 doesn't know about number 4. Right? So you need to design reusable object and mediators around them who will know what to do. So if you will design the screen like this, you can reuse number 5 somewhere else. Not next to number 4, but somewhere else. So if you look at this screen, we can say that number 2 is a mediator for number 4 and 5, correct? But on the other hand, if I will ask you, who is a mediator for number 8? 3. Number 3 is a mediator for number 8, right? So you can build a complex screen. Number 1 is an outmost mediator, so to speak. So number 3 can be a mediator for 7 and 8, but in turn, it has its own mediator, number 1. So if number 3, for example, needs to say something to number 6, number 3 doesn't know anything about number 6, about existence. So number 3 will fire an event to number 1, and you, as a designer, decided that you want number 6 as well, so you will fire an event to number 6. That's the idea. So it's all described in this section in your document that I gave you, so you can read about it. But also, we have half an hour, maybe 40 minutes. I want to show you some examples of how you can create some very simple, basic components in Flex. And let me show you, if you will look at the very end of this application. I want to create a screen like this. Say I wanted to create a custom component based on a button. I want to create a large green button. Maybe this is a rule in our company and every button is supposed to look like this. So I want to create a component based on standard Flex button, which doesn't look as nice as mine, right? So this is one custom component. The other custom component I want to create, I call it shopping cart, this red shopping cart. Red shopping cart is, actually any shopping cart is for what? To store stuff in there, so you can put something in there. So again, I want to create a component based, in this case, based on the text area, rectangular text area, and so I want to define events on it so it can be listening. Whenever somebody will put in there something, it'll know what to do with it. Again, these two friends shouldn't know about each other. The green button will click. We want to define this special custom event that Flex never had before. I want to call it green button clicked. I want to show you how you can define custom events. So it'll fire the event to the application saying, I was clicked. I don't know what to do with it. I'm just signaling you that you know what to do when I was clicked, correct? So the application is supposed to be listening for the click, and whenever it happened, it knows that I also have this red shopping cart next to it. So it'll know that I need to fire another event on the shopping cart. And the nature of these two objects is different in terms of events. If the green button will fire an event to whoever wants to listen, the red shopping cart is all the way around. It is sitting and listening to events from outside. It doesn't fire anything outside, but it's just sitting and listening. Whenever somebody will send an event. Now, how to do something like this? First of all, we need to create a green button. I will be just taking the whole thing from the document just so you can see that I'm not lying to you and you can repeat the same thing at home. But first of all, real simple. In general, how do you create a new component? You will say file new, but you will not be saying I want to create a new application because it's not an application. You will say file new, and up over here, for example, you can say I want to create an XML component. Or if you prefer to do it in ActionScript, you can create ActionScript class, which is in turn also a component. They are interchangeable. If you prefer to create a class called mybeautifulbutton.as in ActionScript, go ahead and do it. When you're done, you can use this myBeautifulButton as a tag in XML. You can say myBeautifulButton, angle bracket, myBeautifulButton. You can do that. So, say I want to create new XML component. Immediately it asks you, based on what? And everything that is there you pick. Say you want to create it based on button, or maybe on VBox, or maybe on the panel. Say you want to create a logon component that has two fields, two labels, and forgot password. And this logon screen is one and only for the whole component. You can create it as a component based on the panel, or based on the canvas, or based on the VBox, and save it forever. Now, in this case, for example, I want to create it based on the button. Based on the button, and I want to, you want to give a name, my best button. And this is, look at this. You don't have application tag anymore, but you have button/button. In between, do whatever you want, write any code you like. On the button itself, make it green, make it brown. Over here, we say color is this, size is that, rounded corner. Use your imagination, be creative.
So when would you, I'm just thinking, when would you do or create your custom components like these? And you have, let's say, controlling the look and feel by the CSS.
It doesn't actually matter how the look and feel is controlled. I can still use CSS to control the look of my button. Not to say color is green, but I can say style name is equal whatever from CSS. But the behavior of the button is still a component.
Oh.
It looks differently, but it's still firing events saying buy for me euros or dollars. So it's not either or. So anyway, so what I will do now, I will create a new project. Well, I will show you real quick. You just follow the screen. I will create a new Flex project, say components. And I will be copying, pasting stuff from that Microsoft Word document. So first of all, I want to create a new button. Again, to display you something else, to explain you something else, which is a concept of namespaces, I will, on purpose, I will create two subfolders, because when you will create a project, you need to organize projects somehow. You will not just put everything in one folder. You'll create this folder for those components, another folder for other components. So I will create a folder green, and in there I will put a green button. I will create a folder red, and in there I will create a red shopping cart. And this will give me a chance to illustrate you something from the namespace area. So I'm standing here, I say right click, new. I want to create new folder. And I will say green. And I also want to create a new folder, and I will say red. Now, let me get the code for the green button. So, which will be the page number 15 in the handout that I gave. I will call it large green button, MXML. And it'll be in the folder green. Right click, new, MXML component. In this case, I can select anything because I will replace the code anyway. but I will call it large green button. Large green button. Finish. And I will replace this code with mine. So it's based on the button. Now, important things are, first of all, I want to define an event, custom event that was never there in Flex. And look at the line number 4, 5, and 6. A special section called metadata. And I want to say, I want to have my own event. The name of it is a special syntax, event. Name is equal. I want to call it green click event. And it's based on the standard event. It's like a superclass. Based on what? Flash comes its own class that is sitting in the package flash.event, and name it. It's called event. And what else? What else I want this button to be? Take a look. I specified the corner radius. It should have rounded corners, right? I specified the colors to use in the button. And I also said, whenever somebody will click on you, call the function green click event handler, which is line number 12. Right? I defined this function. I'm saying whenever somebody will click on you, call this function. What do I do in that function? First of all, I do a trace statement for debugging purposes. I say, ouch, I got clicked, let me tell this to the world. And I want to fire my custom event. This line number 14. Dispatch event. What I do, I create new instance of the event, and I pass to the constructor green click event, which is the name. So this line number 14 will fire an event on this component under the name green click event. And what happened? I don't know. If somebody is listening to this event, it's their problem. They're supposed to pick it up and do what they have to do. My problem is to fire an event when I was done. I don't know about environment anything. Now let's create a simple application that will be listening to this event. We need to prove that yes, the button fires the event and the application receives the event. So I go back to this file, and right under this code, you have a little application that will test our button. Now I will create a new application over here. I'll call it test 1, for example. Finish. And what do we get? This is my code from the Word. Now I have a chance to explain you something else about namespaces. Check this out, line number 4 in particular, this one. I say, I want to use my large green button, but look at the prefix. It's not MX, like every other component that comes with Flex. It's GR. Why it's GR? I define over here a namespace. XML it's a namespace in XML. The thing is that I create my custom components, but they may have conflicts. What if I create a component called button, and Flex has a component called button? Where exactly is implementation of my button or their button? How to separate them? So what you do is you say where your stuff is. And this is what I say. I say, I want to give a prefix gr, for example, and I said green.star, meaning go to the folder green, and all stuff is there. Remember, I created a large green button inside the folder green. So if I wouldn't do this XML_gr is equal green, I would immediately get an error on number 4. It would say, I have no idea. You said gr, a large green button, but I don't know what it is. Where is this button? So, but now it knows that you need the gr means that folder green. That's a namespace.
It's an external component.
No, it's over here. See this? It's in the green. It's component. That's the one. This is a component that's sitting inside the folder green. The application test 1 is sitting in a different folder above, right? But since I said gr, what is gr? It knows how to point. Now let's look at the code. I say green, large green button, and if I will do control space, you will see that green click event became in the list of available events. Why it happened? Because these 3 lines. If you wouldn't declare, if you wouldn't be using this meta tag called event, it wouldn't be visible to Flex Builder. The program would still work, but help wouldn't be available. So in this case, I'll do save. So let's see. Whenever this application receives green click event, we say call the function called green button handler, which is right here. So what do? I say I just do trace in debug mode. I say someone clicked on the large green button. So if I see this message, I think it's a proof that the application received the event, right? So if I will run this program, I expect to see 2 messages, 2 trace messages. One of them, which will say, ouch, I got clicked, let me tell this to the world. This is components trace. And then if this guy will receive it, the application, I will see the second trace. So let's see if this is the case. Red click, run as Flex application. This is my beautiful button. Now I want to make it the screen a bit smaller so you will be able to see the console output. It's still the old output down there. See, I am in the function display this. But when I will click on the button now, I expect to see 2 messages at the console. So what I will do, I will click on it. Oh, basically, see, I have this. You're absolutely right. See, I made a mistake. I didn't run it in the debug mode. That's why trace statement didn't work. So let me fix this mistake and thank you for.
Do we have a print statement instead of a trace?
No. Debug as Flex application. So let me click on it. Now it works. See, ouch comes from the component, and someone clicked comes from the application. And so this part works. So they talk to each other, the application and the green button. One more thing. Let's add red shopping cart in the red folder. Going back to the manual.
Question.
Mm-hmm.
Can the component sit in the different project itself, and then you actually use the URI kind of namespace?
You can, if you want to do this, you can. You can say in Flex Builder reference project and say that one.
How do you use the URI there?
It's not. You right click on the project properties, and there is reference projects, and you will see the list of projects from your Eclipse. Okay, so 1 second. So the second component will be over here, text area. Yeah, go ahead. It's an application. Can be if you want. In this case, the mediator is application itself, but you can have more like nested structure, and you can have a component, a VBox or a panel, which inside has a large green button and the shopping cart. So in this case, this panel would be the mediator.
So if I have mediator components, which is basically including other components.
Correct.
Then would that base that on the application, or I mean, because it has the base as button. So what would you use as the base?
It depends. Mediator, it's a concept. You think of what container is appropriate for your application. That's all that that's all your concern. It can be a panel, it can be canvas, it can be VBox, it can be HBox. All these can be mediators. Okay, so I will create a large. I will create. I'm sorry. I want to call it red blind shopping cart. Why I call it blind? Because this version doesn't know what exactly was placed in the shopping cart. It knows that something was placed. We don't have time in this workshop to show you how you would package the value object inside, but at least it will understand that something happened to me. So I will create in the red folder, right click, new component, and I will call red blind shopping cart. This component is based on text area, line number 2. Just a text area. And now important part is, look at this. Line number 3, creation complete. Creation complete is one of the important events that is fired by Flash player whenever components are ready to go. So I don't know when exactly this component will be created in memory and ready to use, for use. But I know that Flash player will fire an event for me, creation complete. This for me is a signal. So what I'm saying is, whenever it happens, call for me the function on creation complete, which is line number 11. So on the creation complete of the component, it's like a constructor situation. So it will be called only once. What I'm saying is, I want to add event listener. So this is a shopping cart. It will not be firing anything. It will be sitting and listening. Maybe somebody will put stuff in there. So I say on create. I say this dot add event listen. I say listen to the event. To which one? Add item to cart event, which is my event, which I define it right here. And whenever it happened, I don't know who will fire this event and when, but whenever it happened, please call add item to cart event handler, which is line number 15. So again, on the creation complete, I start listening. I'm sitting and listening, doing nothing. Whenever somebody will fire event on me called add item to cart event, I will call the function line number 15 and do whatever I have to do. In this case, I add to the text, I am text area, right? I say, yes, someone has put some item inside me, but I don't know what it is. So again, the sequence will go like this. Somebody click on a green button fire an event, application picks it up, and fire an event on the red shopping cart. Red shopping cart is sitting and listening. Whenever it happens, it will call this function. So this is a component and the second version of the test application. So again, think of it, loosely coupled component. This application with 2 components. I will call it test 2. Okay. Misspell. Yeah, I see. So let's fix it over here. See, I called it over here blibed, but it should be blind. Let me do it blibed to make it faster. All right. So check this out. I have the same large button in line number 5 in the namespace gr, but now I have 2 namespaces. I decided to give a prefix rd for red folder and gr for green folder. Now I have components sitting in 2 different folders. Typical situation for your project when you will be organizing the stuff. So what is? I want to have a green button. Underneath, I want to have a red shopping cart. I give it a name, the cart. Whenever the button green is called, you still call green button handler in line number 13. And what do I do in there? Check this out. I say the cart, not in general dispatch event like it was in the green button. I say the cart dot dispatch event. I want to fire event on this red component. Not somewhere, but exactly on this. I assume that it's sitting and listening to. So I'm saying the cart dispatch event, new event, add item to cart event. Remember, that red component was listening to this event, and the whole thing will fall into play. Okay, it doesn't like something here now. What did it say? Oh, the string. I broke the string over here. That's fine. All right. Okay, so let's do test number 2. Again, I need to do debug mode, right? First of all, let me clean this area. Right click, debug as Flex application. I have 2 of them now. Green button and the red shopping cart component. The second one is listening. So when I will click on it, let's see what happened. Look at the console. See, I got clicked. This is component. But now the shopping cart received it. And it said, yes, someone has put something inside me, but I don't know where it is. In the red area. Do you see that? So the point is, I have 2 components, a mediator is an application, and they talk to each other without knowing about each other. Now I can use this red shopping cart anywhere else, not necessarily with this green button.
Can that red component also listen to server-side changes?
Say it again?
Can that red component which you put, it's a listener, right? So can that also listen to server-side?
Of course. I just want to make it as simple as possible. But if we come back to this example, these pricing panel are sitting and listening to the feed, to the external feed, with data, with quotes, with price quotes, as a component. Nobody else is supposed to know about it. It's none of our business, as long as this pricing panel sends me the proper messages and so on. Okay, and the final piece, I will show you a little demo of the. Let me just switch real quick. A little demo of how I can create quickly an application right in front of you using our plugin. Our plugins, I highly recommend you to look at it. They are located at the website called myflex.org. The story is, we created plugins. First of all, we put it in the open source a couple of years ago, a plugin, and then after that, for Flex 2, we started selling these plugins. When we recovered the price for development, for Flex 3, we're going to be giving them away for free again. So if you will go to my Flex 3 and you want to try the same thing as I did, I get the license in there, and even though there are prices, you will be able to use the beta version of Flex 3 components. They will not be chargeable. So anyway, so let's do it real quick. So I have, let me start fresh. I have a database, MySQL, installed in here with a table employee. I have 10 minutes left, so I don't have time to show you. But trust me, there is table employee. I will create a new project using our plugin called Clear Data Builder. Clear Data Builder 3.0. This one is the one that is free. The previous one is not. So what I will do, I will show you how I will create a new project to get the data from the data and how it happens automatically. The whole thing is happening in Java, basically. So I have this Java EE version of Eclipse. So what I do, I say I want to create a new dynamic web project. It has nothing to do with Flex at this point. And the project name is Bangalore CRUD, for example. Create, retrieve, update, delete. See, it automatically generated for me the class. The project, for now. For now, we are sitting in Java perspective. It's not Flex at all. What is requested? The only thing that I need to give to this application, I need to give a simple Java abstract class annotated with SQL statement. What do I want to get? I want to get employees, for example. No, I did something wrong, sorry. New. I think I pressed finish too early. Yes, I didn't configure our plugin. So when you have our plugin installed, you say I want to use Clear Data Builder facet, and you want to use Flex Builder, Flex project facet. Next, Bangalore 2 is a project. Next, what do you want to use? In this example, I am using Blaze DS, which is free implementation of AMF protocol between Flex and Java. So, where is your Blaze? My Blaze is, I downloaded and it's sitting in my folder C Blaze DS, which can be anywhere. Now, next, you need to configure the database. Which database you want to connect? I will be using MySQL, and I will be using Tomcat as an application server for deployment. So, it asks me, JDBC pool, what name you want to do? What name you want to give to this JDBC pool? Say test. MySQL, is, by default, I didn't change anything, runs on port 3306, and I have a database test in there as well. I have user ID DBA, and say com.bangalore. The class will be employee, and it will be abstract. Finish. Now in this class I need to specify select statement that I want to run. Let me copy real quick what I pasted over there. Oh no, this is not it. I thought I pasted it. I need this part. Okay, it doesn't know what list is. 1 second. List from Java DTO. So this is it. I created a simple abstract class, and I say that get employees is a function, and this function is supposed to run select start from employee, and it's supposed to use JDBC connection that is called test. I configured test during the project creation. And the data transfer object that will be running between ActionScript and Java is called should be called employee DTO. It all will be generated. Key column in that table is emp ID, and table to update is employee. So I do project. 1 second. I have a server, Tomcat. It's again I'm using this Eclipse JE. I will add this project that I created, Bangalore 2, to this server, so it will deploy it. What else I need? Let me do project clean, and the process it'll start generating all code required for this application, based on this employee class and based on this select statement that I've written. See, end script starts, and it generates and deploys the project. We are using internally, we are using Java and XSL, so we are generating entire Flex portion and entire Java portion. Build is successful and Jar is deployed. I just need to do one more thing, and we are ready. Bangalore, let me check one file. All right, so let me do this. I will start the server now. Yeah, oh, by the way, I forgot to tell you. While it was generating the application, it generated the whole bunch in the test folder. It generated the whole bunch of sample test application for this exactly SQL statement. And one of them is called employees get employees grid test. So we will get this application that will retrieve the data into a data grid. I will just copy them. I will copy this one to be my main application in my main Flex folder. Right click, set it as default, and we are ready to go. If everything is fine, if we will not get this demo effect, I will start the server, which has my application there, Bangalore 2. I will right click, start. I'm starting Tomcat. and is supposed to deploy our application that was generated. Now, starting. It started. Tomcat started. Now what I will do, it started. Now what I will do now, I will go to Flex source, employee get employees, right click, run as, Flex application. And here's a miracle. It's connected to Java. It generated everything in front of you. It connected to Java, retrieves the data, and populated the grid. This is a sample application ready to go, and it knows how to update the data as well. For example, say Melissa will get married and she will become Melissa Smith. I can do commit, and it updated the database. If I will do fill again, it remembers that it's Smith, and so on. So the application is ready. The code is available, and this is how we start our project. We go to client. Obviously, it's not select from employee, but we ask them, what do you want? What kind of data you want? We can do the simple one, the complex one, with parameter, without parameters. The application code is generated, is available over here. So go ahead and generate this base, and then on top of it, keep building it, keep changing it, change the XML and so on. See? This is all source code that is available. We are using reflection, so it's connected to the table employee, figure out what are the columns, what are the data types, and this is it. And we have 30 seconds for questions. Again, it's myflex.org if you are interested, or stop by and we can talk about it.
Can we load components at runtime?
Excuse me?
Can we load components at runtime?
Can you load? Of course, yes. Flex has a bunch of loaders. And you can load not only components, you can load the whole Swifts. So the main application can be several Swifts, and you can load them at your will.
So how these namespaces will be defined at runtime? You can define namespace also at runtime.
You need to look, we don't have time now, but you need to look at so-called Flex library project. In there you can create a manifest file and specify, give one namespace and specify list all classes in all folders where they are. From outsiders, this one namespace will allow to recognize and find inside the library where exactly this is. All right, thank you very much, guys.